collection of letters between a Christian family, Ralia Rams, especially, Mrs. K. Ralia Ram, with the father of the nation, Jinnah. And from there on, we took, these things to further thing. And then we came up with this proposal that maybe I think I should come up with this sort of a talk about, Christian-Muslim relation before the partition and after the partition, especially their connection with the father of the nation. I mean, if we talk, broadly to, when you talk about Christians' involvement in the partition of India, you wouldn't have, you wouldn't find many academic, stuff over there. But since my first job after my MSc, I went to this Jinnah Papers project. That was a project collecting a collection of Qaid-e-Azam's, correspondence with Muslim leaders, with council people, with British, and with ordinary Indians. So as I was mentioning earlier, there's a very uncivil thing to go through people's personal letters. But this was my job, so I went to Qaid-e-Azam's personal letter, for consecutive 1 year. So during that time, I came to know that there was this particular lady, Mrs. K. Ralia Ram, who used to write to Qaid-e-Azam every second week. And it's not just the letters; she used to even send him the press clippings of different newspapers, because he was a busy man. He didn't have time to go through all the newspapers. So she was a pro-Muslim League, Christian woman. She was the wife of K. Ralia Ram, educationalist and politician. So she had all the time in the world to go through every single newspaper that she can get hold of. And then if something was relevant to Muslim League or Qaid-e-Azam, or for the cause of partition, cause of Muslim League, she would cut this press clipping and send it to Qaid-e-Azam, along with the letter. And I mean, he was a kind of a person that people wouldn't dare to talk on his face on certain things. But she had this audacity, or I say had this luxury to talk about certain things. That came up with this idea of talks titled as Christian Connection, Exploring M.A. Jinnah's Epistolary Relation with Mrs. K. Ralia Ram from 1944 to 47. It's a thing that I tried to find letters that were after the partition, but I couldn't find letters. Maybe she thought that her job was done and Pakistan was there, so there's no need to take the valuable time of the father of the nation. But I tried my best to find letters that were written to Qaid-e-Azam after 1947, but I couldn't find anything. And apart from the letters, there's hardly any information about the Ralia Ram's family, especially Mrs. K. Ralia Ram. Since, as I mentioned earlier to one of the colleagues, that, this idea of collection of letters was not my own. It was my friend, Mr. Kamar Zaman, who was the DG of National Documentation Wing. It's a sort of a repository in Pakistan, Islamabad. He was a Christian, and he was an old friend. He wanted me to write something on this Christian-Muslim relations and communal harmony. So you don't take your friend seriously once they are with you. So once he died, I thought maybe whatever we have talked about, we need to do something about that. So my idea was this, that maybe I'm going to write about certain things. First, that I should start with could be this correspondence between Mrs. K. Ralia Ram and Qaid-e-Azam himself. Because as for my first job in Jinnah Papers, I used to go through every letter that was there as part of my job. So I thought at that time it's very interesting to look into all the letters. And people talk about correspondence of Jinnah Sahib with many influential Muslim leaders, or Hindu leaders, or Britishers. But I came up with this thing that there were around 85 letters between these two. 85 letters, and he actually used to wait for her letters. It's not that if you're going to send her, and he was a sort of a one-man army. Now he used to reply to everyone, whosoever was supposed to write to Jinnah, and that was concerning the Muslim cause. He would be generous enough to write back to them, and they were about 85 letters. There must be some more that I cannot get hold of. I tried my best. And since, I was serious about this thing when I was here in Oxford, because my friend died back home. And I called many Christian friends to get hold of, this, if they have any information about Mrs. K. Ralia Ram after partition. I mean, a couple of individuals that I requested was, one was Mr. Christopher Sharaf. He's in charge of this Christian-Muslim, the Christian Studies Center in Rawalpindi. The other one was YMCA, Young Men Christian Associations, Sarfraz Samuel. And he gave me a couple of, clicks of B.L. Ralia, who was a principal of that college for at least 35 years, I guess. And even he did not have any clue about the graveyard, where they are buried. So I tried a couple of students from LUMS to, go and find out the, tombs that if they can get hold of. But since you're not there, you can't ask someone else to do the job for you. So maybe once I go back in summer, I'll try to find the graves and, try to dig down more about their, how did they, end up as far as Pakistan is concerned after partition, after 1947, especially after 1949. What was their idea about, objective resolution of stuff. So it was his idea, Qamar Zaman's idea, that I should, document these Christian-Muslim relations sort of stuff in, correspondence. So I started because I have already collected, 85 letters. So I came up with this introduction and stuff, and then I requested Martin to come up with the forward. Hopefully he's going to do it this year. And before I start now, I wanted to give you a sort of a pictorial sort of introduction of Father of the Nation, Qaid Azam Muhammad al-Jinnah. And if you can just look at, that's the first picture. I mean, we talk about his writing style, and I've come up with this letter that he has written to Honorable Secretary of Lincoln, and that he was looking for some exemption as far as Latin was concerned, because he pleaded that since it's not a local language in Pakistan and in India and at that time, and it was going to be very difficult for him to pass his exam. And he was called to the bar at the time. He was about 19 years old. And by the way, he didn't have any undergrad degree under his name. So, I've mentioned these are the two, photographs when he was a young barrister. That's something that, late 1940s in his library, and then with the Mahatma Gandhi. And this is the picture that we have for all the, currency notes and stuff. You must be familiar with that, But yes. Smart, isn't it? And that's the letter that I was talking about. 1893, he was only 17 at that time. I imagine someone coming from India who's just got a matriculation degree, didn't have an undergrad degree, is going to go for a bar preliminary exam, and he's asking, he's pleading, or maybe he's submitted this petition that I shall be exempted from this Latin because it's not a local language in India and Pakistan. It's going to take lots of my time. So if I'm allowed to be exempted from this, taking this exam in Latin, maybe it would be better for me. So I'm just trying to give you an impression of the man, that what kind of a person he was. And if you go through this, the shooting style he had is Henry Poole and Co. At Savile Row, I went there and they had the record of his collection that he used to have. And apart from this letter, if you can have a look at this letter that I've mentioned over here. This is handwritten letter, 1893, and he's talking to the bench of the Honorable Secretary of Lincoln's Inn about a call to the bar when he was 19-year-old. And then I mentioned this charismatic, personality of Jinnah, that how can, since it's a part of the book, so I wouldn't give you all of it. I'm just going to give you a bird eye view so that you can have a look, have some idea about whatever I'm going to talk about in that book that I'm planning to publish. He had this fan following, everywhere. It's not just the Muslims. And the British thought that he's highly, educated, very articulate. He's someone that, who wouldn't take nonsense from no one. The Congress would think that, he's the one, sort of a worthy opponent. You have to think twice before you set something in front of him. And the Muslim leaders thought that he's the only sole representative, of the Muslims of India. So at the same time, he had this fan following in the minority communities. They were not, in the proper run for the government or something like that, just like the Sikhs or the Christians. And one of the families that I'm going to talk about is the Ralia Ram. They were basically three brothers: B.L. Ralia Ram, K.L. Ralia Ram, and A.L. Ralia Ram. B.L. and K.L. were, quite, influential, and you can find plenty of stuff about these two in archives. That one of them was a politician, and the second one was an educationalist, and they used to call there's only one master in in Lahore, and that is the B.L. Ralia Ram. And K.L. Ralia Ram's wife, Mrs. K.L. Ralia Ram. I mean, that's the name she used for every correspondence. It took me 3 months to find out, and I couldn't, that, what was her maiden name. Someone would say, Moolan Devi or something like that, but I'm not sure, because as a historian, I need to have footnote. If my mom is going to tell me something, I will ask for a footnote. I wouldn't put that in, if I'm not going to have a look at the footnote. So I couldn't find the maiden name. People would come up with certain, frivolous names, but I'm not sure whether that's the proper maiden name. She's the one, she was very much pro-Muslim League. She was the General Secretary of the Indian National Congress. And she even used to write, letters. That one particular letter that, I've chosen for you, that is a letter from Mr. Muhammad Jinnah to K.L. Ralia Ram. I can't see it properly, but I have this copy. And there are plenty of letters, but this one that, I have, it says, "Dear Mrs. Ralia Ram, I thank you for your letter of the 11th June. I have written to you 2 letters, one from Simla and the other from Delhi, acknowledging your letter which I have received, but I cannot understand why you have not received those letters. I am again acknowledging your letter of the 11th instant, thanking you for all the information that you have given us." I mean, he's even talking about the letter that he thinks he has not received, because she used to send, press clippings, she used to send notes. And if, Muslim leaders were too scared to come up with anything that has been published in a newspaper somewhere, she would have the guts to, send a copy of that, this is what people are talking about you. And the other letter that I have, included in this is a handwritten letter by Mrs. K.L. Ralia Ram to Mr. Jinnah. And there are 2 pages. It's very difficult for you guys to, go through it. But the letter that I wanted to tell you is this. The Indian Social Congress. I mean, this is the their own, political party, Indian Social Congress of the Christians. Mm-hmm. And she used to, write from that, political platform as well. That, me being a General Secretary of the Indian Social Congress is writing something for the information of the Qadi Muhammad now. And he never discouraged her to write lengthy letters or to send, press clippings, because, once I was working there in Jinnah papers, I used to come up with letters. They used to have bigger papers than A4 these days. And with those papers, they were used to have 10, 15, 20 press clippings that, you went there in Patna, you spoke about this issue, and this is what the, the press has, came up with this, as a feedback. And he used to go through each and every press clipping. And how did I know that? Because he used to reply to her that, I'm thankful that you have sent me this letter on dated, whatever date, and with that kind of clippings, and whatever you have talked about, I'm going to think about it, and then I'm going to make sure that next time, I'm going to include that or exclude that in my, public speaking sort of stuff. As far as, the 2 male Ralia Ram is concerned, I mean, one is on the left side is K.L. Ralia Ram, that is her husband, and the right side, they have this portrait in YMCA, Lahore. In my, book that I've sent to Martin, for a forward, I have put in lots of photographs, but here I've just put in a couple of photographs and a couple of press clippings. And 2 of the press clippings that I have mentioned, and there's one that I want to tell you that they used to have this Christian viewpoint about certain things. The League Unionist Rapprochement, and there's this Civil and Military Gazette. It's a very renowned newspaper from India before partition, and that is 1946 in October. And they used to have this Christian viewpoint about certain things. At the right corner, you could see that, there's a Christian viewpoint about certain things that, whatever is happening in India and how the Christians are perceiving that in development. And they were thinking about this thing that, if India is going to be divided, which part they're going to be, are they going to support the Muslim League, or are they going to support, the Akalis, or are they going to support the Congress? And people, they have this thing that, as far as Punjab is concerned, they thought that maybe the decisive vote was of the Speaker of the Assembly, who was a Christian, that, West Punjab should be included in this. And the one that I earlier spoke, that, he had this luxury to send anything. Mr. Jinnah's stubborn attitude, no one else would have the, courage to send anything like this to Muhammad Ali Jinnah Sahab. So that was a press clipping that she sent to him, that, this is what a certain newspaper is talking about, something. So no one in the Muslim League, no one in, in other parts, those who were close to Muslim League, could have sent that kind of a, press clipping in a letter to Jinnah Sahab. So these are a couple of, press clippings that, I mentioned there. And then I think I should speak about a couple of centers that are working for this Christian-Muslim harmony, or, to acknowledge their, their role in the partition of India, their role in, nation building. And as I mentioned earlier, one of my friends, Kamar Zaman, who was the DG in National, documentation building, it's a sort of a repository in Pakistan under the Cabinet Division, where they have kept all the governmental, documents. And he, being a Christian, he was very much interested in, whenever he used to have some time, he used to go and, find some document that could, relate to this thing, that they were pro-Pakistan when, after 1940, because 1940 is a decisive year in our history. Before that, we've been just talking about this political, social, cultural rights that Muslims should have in India. 1940 was the year when they thought that enough is enough, we're going to go for just one agenda, and that is the creation of Pakistan. And that was a decisive moment, because you needed people who are going to go for Pakistan, or you're going to go for, Muslim rights or Christian rights or some other minority rights. So Muslim League came up with this idea that after 1940, they're going to go for this one-point agenda, that is the creation of Pakistan. So most of the Christians, especially those who were in western parts of the Punjab, they were with the Muslim League, and they propagated for this. They took part in rallies and stuff. And on the forefront, because this is what I have taken some time for this, that I should write my first volume of this book on Christian-Muslim relations, starting from 1914 earlier. So I thought this family should be highlighted, and their contribution should be highlighted. I have mentioned in this that all the letters, 4, 5, or maybe 8 of them, they are written by the other brothers, the male members. I have included them as well, so that you can have a look at this. And even Jinnah Sahab have replied to these 3 brothers as well. And then there are this Christian Study Center in Rawalpindi. You must have, I was going through your library catalog, and I've figured out there are plenty of books that have been published by Christian Study Center in Rawalpindi, and then they are here. That's the only publication house in Twin City that I know. And the guy there is called Christopher Sharif, and he's very much involved into this publication on Christian Muslim harmony before partition, after partition, and those who have worked for the development as far as a new state, nation state is concerned. They were in the military, they were in the academia, and they were in every walk of life, and they have done good for themselves. It's not that they did not enjoy the status that they were looking for in a Muslim dominated Pakistan. The other initiative that we have taken, the government of Pakistan has taken with the help of the army and with the help of the Christian, volunteers, Muslim volunteers, that is called the Paigam-e-Pakistan, sort of initiative. And they are working for this communal harmony in Pakistan. They are going places, they are organizing seminars, workshops, and bringing in all the communities together to work out about things that, even if they have some differences, or how they can come up with new suggestions to improve Christian-Muslim relations. And then I've met a couple of young lads. I was talking to Martin about it, but in the early 20s. They can be in medical profession, they can be in business profession. They are Christian by religion. One of them is his name is Harsha. He's a doctor in PIMS, and he's trying his best to come up with whatever information we as Muslim majority members are looking for, to come up with this academic work on Muslim-Christian relations in Pakistan, or even before the partition of India. So things are in the right line, but at the same time, people have their own demons, when it comes to working on this, sensitive issues, or maybe coming from a minority point of view. So it is the responsibility of the majority community to give them a thumbs up that you're doing the right thing. I mean, no one is going to alter our sort of a belief system, or the sort of constitution that we have, the rights and the duties that we have spoken about. Yeah. But the thing is that if they have done something for the development of the nation, it should be appreciated. And that's what I thought I should be a part of it. It's a very small effort that I've taken up, but hopefully, since my friend is no more, so maybe if I go and meet him again, I can tell him that once you're gone, I started working on it. Because whenever we used to meet, he used to say, you need to do something about this. I was like, come on, maybe some other time. But now I think that if I'm going to start something, maybe it's not going to be how shall I put it, a very big thing, or very articulated thing, but it's going to be a start. Someone else, someone from let's say after 2 years, 3 years, is going to come up, and he's going to pick up that book, and he's going to find out these are the loopholes, these are the things that needs to be corrected. And he needs to know the maiden name of Ralia Ram, or what she was doing after 1947, and how the Pakistan government, the state treated them, and were they happy with that? The promised land was good enough for them, the other side of the fence was greener for them or not? So these are the questions that I'm going to leave behind. I mean, I thought I'm going to start with this correspondence, that they were there, they had their share, and so that people can appreciate their work, and then somebody can come up and go for a particular sort of a academic research. That's going to take some time, but somebody had to start it, so I thought I should start with this one. Next project would be their contribution after the creation of Pakistan, after 1947, whether it's in the military, in academia, and sports, and anywhere. So it's not going to be a rocket science as far as these books are concerned, or these monographs are concerned, but at least it's going to be a sort of my appreciation to their contribution. And hopefully someone else is going to come up after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, to come up with a proper academic research work on this. So that's the simple sort of thing that I wanted to talk about. And if you have some questions, anything, suggestions, take your best shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fascinating.